Nancy Pelosi's idea of the end times, the Republican Tax Bill.
This is the end of it. This healthcare, the debate on healthcare is life, death. This is Armageddon. This is a very big deal because you know why? There's really a very hard way to come back from this. They take us further, more deeply into debt. What can you do but raise taxes?
Yes, more fear-mongering from the top Democrat in the House, and she's not the only one in her party using scare tactics to condemn the sweeping legislation. Here's Obama economic advisor Larry Summers.
When people lose health insurance, they're less likely to get preventive care, they're more likely to defer health care they need, and ultimately they're more likely to die. My piece explains why an estimate that thousands will die as a consequence of this bill is actually a very conservative estimate.
No matter what Republicans propose, it's going to lead to death and destruction, Greg.
Yes, without hyperbole, Democrats would have nothing. If you take up any issue that isn't immediately dangerous, like the Trump election, climate change, tax reform, the debate starts with them saying that the opposition are evil killers, right, taking us down to the path of the apocalypse, except when it comes to ISIS or terror. It's the most amazing contrast. If you actually flip the reactions, so the concern over taxes is actually a concern over terror, for once liberals would be right. So that what does this tell you? Liberals only feel outrage if they can direct it at the Marxist, progressive, approved enemy, which is the West. So when it's climate change or the election or taxes, you are evil because you are the West. You can never say anything about ISIS or terror in the same vein.
So Republicans are more deadly than ISIS.
Exactly.
Katie, is that what you were getting? It's like the boy that cried wolf, though. How long can they keep this up?
This is such a lazy argument that they've made. I mean, remember the ad that Nancy Pelosi's allies ran with Paul Ryan pushing an old grandma off a cliff when they were trying to do Medicare reform, excuse me. I mean, this is an argument they've been using forever, and now I understand after hearing from Larry Summers why the Obama economy was so bad. And for him to suggest that because people are forced to buy Obamacare, that they somehow have health care is a complete and utter lie. The insurance under Obamacare doesn't necessarily provide you any health care, first of all, because it's too expensive, and second of all, because there's a few, not enough doctors now, and the demand for health care has gone through the roof. As a result, waiting times for healthcare have increased. Rural hospitals have closed. This idea now that we're allowing people to get out of an entitlement program, which is Obamacare, of course was terrifying to Democrats because that means that people can spend their own money and buy their own healthcare, opening up a whole nother market, which is an indictment of government-run health insurance.
You know what really killed people, Juan? The Obama VA scandal. People actually died there. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Well, let me just tell you, Katie, I think what we know is that there's more people covered by insurance because
they're forced to buy it, Juan.
Oh, I'm just saying, more people have health insurance, which is good for us all.
Because the government tells them they're going to be fine.
It's a penalty.
They can't buy it.
Let me just say, it created a system that allows us all as Americans to have fewer dollars imposed on us as when you and I buy because we're employed, and those who don't have the money for health insurance to get health insurance so that they don't impose a burden on the rest of us. This is good for America, good for the healthcare system, keeps costs down.
It's horrible.
Has no effect on health.
It does, but let me just say something. If you don't have health insurance, try to be healthy.
There have been studies that show.
People don't have health insurance under Obamacare because it's too expensive.
Let me just get back to what Greg was talking about, though, because it seems to me you ignore something that Republicans had endorsed for years, which is the Joint Commission on Taxation, the official scorekeeper of Congress, saying that everyone who makes less than $75,000 is going to see a tax increase under this in 10 years. You don't notice that, oh my gosh, Republicans have always been deficit hawks, and what do we see from the official scorekeepers? 1.5 trillion additional cost added to our deficit. So it seems to me like you don't have to say Armageddon. I think she's trying to be hyperbolic, because she's trying to make...
So you agree with me?
But I think she is right when she says, and by the way, most Americans, guess what? Most Americans agree this is a bad bill.
I'm not crazy about the bill, but I'm not setting my hair on fire.
So why are you over there defending?
Let's go. I'm condemning the behavior which is hypocritical. They don't act this way when it comes to existential threats, but then they exaggerate.
You're picking on the fact that Democrats criticize it, even though you don't like the bill yourself.
No, that the people in involved in
agree,
it
though.
are murderous monsters, and everybody's going to die.
But Juan agrees with what you said.
I know.
He said that they're, very liberal use of hyperbole, and then he said the language was hyperbolic. So
Yes, I agree with that.
You're
but
agreeing
You
with
live in a hyperbolic chamber.
I know. That's why
But
he
I'm
looks so
just
good.
surprised that Greg would, I mean, the audience must have come away from Greg's monologue thinking, oh, Greg thinks this is a great bill, Republicans doing the right things. Oh, those Democrats.
Only you were confused, Juan.
Oh, I-
Kimberly,
We were
Okay.
all
you
on
take us
point.
away,
Yes,
please.
please, Calgon, take us away because this is getting crazy. Americans are very tired of this language, of the semantic gymnastics that the Democrats and the libs put forward to scare them, throwing Granny off the cliff or this or that. It's enough already for them, and especially because they are seeing the impact of Obamacare having literally pulled dollars out of their pockets that they wanted to be able to have for their families to be able to use for other things that they needed. Instead, what's happened here under the Obamacare is that people were being forced and penalized and basically tied to a chair and say, give us your money to pay for the uninsured, etc. How is that something that should be allowed? So now we're trying to improve on that. And yes, there's going to be some bumps along the way, but it is overall going to be an improvement and better for the working class Americans.
And if you look at the bill and the contents of the bill, Democrats have been arguing for decades that they are the champions of the middle class. Where here we are with an actual piece of legislation that is going to give the middle class a tax credit across the board. And guess what? People in the higher tax brackets are going to get a tax hike. So why are Democrats complaining about it?
Wow,